What's going on, workforce? Brian and Chris here today, giving you guys the rundown of everything that's kind of transpired over the weekend, especially with the latest housing crisis and lottery system. Now, I've been kind of covering Yoshi-P's individual updates over on Ginger Prime, and we do actually have a new update to cover specifically in this video to give you guys the full context of what's happening. But there's also a greater discussion. Also, like Chris called me. He's like, why is everybody mad? Like, what is happening? And so then and then we were like
minutes after it was starting to break.
Yeah.
And then I did tweet, like, I'm so sorry for everybody that this, but like,
that's the right response.
This isn't the first in the saga,
right,
of people getting hurt by housing. Right. This is just the newest entry into people getting hurt by housing. And I don't think it's that the devs aren't trying.
Right. That's the mindset that I've seen. I've seen two kind of permeating thoughts brought up online. The devs don't care, which I'd like to, like, that might be a part of the discussion that we end up having after we cover kind of the news piece. The other part is that is Final Fantasy XIV in managed decline. So there are some really extreme thoughts. I agree with you. Like, I completely agree with you. And the question that I've been having all weekend is how to educate, how to like reform that topic, because at its core, go ahead.
Is a controlled fall. It's not implementing new features poorly.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're letting your house just kind of slowly deteriorate, you're not like, yeah, and so I'm going to put new paint on it poorly. Like right. No, you just don't paint it.
But at its core, like that, the idea there is, I find it just really like fascinating, and like only one angle. Like I haven't really fully thought out the idea, so maybe I'll turn it into a video, or maybe we'll have it as a discussion later this week. But as the topic of it is that Final Fantasy XIV has been presented as this shining, city on a hill kind of aspect, like this utopian view, especially with all the issues surrounding, bigger or formerly bigger games like World of Warcraft. And we've, at that time, and we're even like, we're attacked for it.
Expansion this Wednesday.
Wow. Okay.
Best of luck.
Best of luck. But as even at the time, we're like, guys, like, we love 14, but like, there are things about the game that could definitely be improved. And it's like, obviously when you have that hype cycle, typically that's what not a lot of people are looking for in their feed. They're like, I just want the positive. Don't remind me that housing exists in this game because it's unattainable. And so housing tends to be one of the core features that it is probably perhaps the best reflection of the real life situation we're in right now. Like, we both live in Texas. We both bought in housing back when it was considered affordable. Like, I looked at the neighborhood and I'm like, I could not afford to move to Texas. Like, if I was looking,
didn't feel affordable at the time.
It never does feel affordable. I'm just saying that, like, at its core, like, oh, I can make that work. And then all of a sudden it's like, now I look at it, I go, oh my gosh, like, if you don't have we have a house in game, and I feel guilty talking about it, because I'm like, I don't feel like I use housing the way that people who want a house will take advantage and use the system. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, they are some of the most creative people. Like, outside of the new plaque system, like, housing and plaque system is like a real creative endeavor that like whether they're content creators or not, like, people make some stuff that I'm like, holy crap, that's impressive. And then there's people who are just kind of walled off from the garden because of the limiting factor that is housing. And this isn't something new, a new problem. This has been a problem throughout. And the lottery system was hopefully to help address the botting, which essentially that's what people went and did. They had to go and bot, or they had to stream for like 70 some odd hours clicking a sign. Like, wave the camera, Chris. That's you. Those are our most popular streams to date. If only you could go house hunting and click signs again. But beyond that, I find the frustration partly justified, but also like the extreme nature of it. Just like, I'm like, come on, guys, they're not they would want to fix this. I wanted housing solved forever, because I'm tired of it. Like, I'm tired of the issues with it. I'm tired of it being kind of this, like, stain on essentially the, like, what people want for the game. But do we want to dive into the post now, or is there any thoughts you had towards my monologue?
Yeah. Timestamp the intro.
Intro done. 7 minutes into the video. All right, let's hit it up.
Okay. So, Naoki Yoshida, for anybody that doesn't know at this point, the producer and director of 14, the face of the live letters. Once again, please allow me to apologize for the disruption caused by the problems with the housing lottery system introduced in patch 6.1, which otherwise has been a widely successful patch. In the early hours of this morning, we identified a processing issue as well as a server-side program issue, and we'll be taking the following steps to address them. We will be restoring the lottery results data. We will be fixing the identified issues. We will be verifying the fixes. The current lottery situation is that due to the issues affecting the housing lottery system, the lottery results for each plot currently fall into either of the following categories. 1. The lottery was conducted successfully, the correct results were displayed, and the plots could be purchased. Or 2, the lottery was conducted successfully, but the winning number was not communicated to the housing server. Please read on for an explanation of what each of these categories means to the players. Winners with access to the purchase of the plot. For the plot that corresponded to the first category, this means there were no problems with the lottery itself and the results were displayed. Winners are free to finalize their purchases, so please continue enjoying the features of the housing system. Subsequent fixes and data restoration will not force you to enter a new lottery. We encourage players who have not finalized their plot purchase to do so as soon as possible. While unfinalized claims won't prevent our efforts to restore lottery data, the fewer plots that are in doubt, the quicker we will be able to proceed with the restoration. Ishgard Restoration, round 2. That was an odd word choice. So we will also be making this request in an upcoming news item. Winning lottery number 0. In the case that the plots were in the second category, the winning lottery number displayed as 0. Meaning that no one who registered for the lottery was able to purchase the plot. The only recourse for participants was to receive their guild refund, and further examination of the placard at the plot's entrance showed the message there were no participants in this lottery. After investigating this issue, we discovered that while the server responsible for conducting the lottery was functioning as intended, the results are not being properly relayed to the servers responsible for managing housing-related data. Once this issue has been resolved, the lottery results can be relayed to the housing data server without issue. It will be possible to confirm the lottery winners. Furthermore, players who registered for the lottery at affected plots will not be required to register a second time. We ask for your patience as we work to recover data containing the results for these plots. That's a huge one right there.
That's fantastic to see. Like,
because the concern has been, I registered against this many people.
Mm-hmm.
There were other plots that registered against this many people. Those plots got their winner. So now all the losers from those plots are going to come compete against me. So now I'm going to have to fight for the same plot I asked for the first time
that you
except
won
in a worse odds pool. And what if I had been the winner, which we don't know? And so everybody naturally assumes that was the one they won. So you have this entire pool of people that all feel identically affected. And they're saying, no, only one of you was affected. We know which one. And we're going to be able to kind of go in and track that. The means by which gil may be collected from those who have already received a gil refund prior to learning that they have won the lottery is under consideration. Details of this process will be announced at a later date. For anybody that did not live through the WoW 8.3 introduction of the auction house, this is what they had to do. They had to go back through logs and find our gold. Our gold was lost because when an auction completed, the gold wasn't going to your mailbox where you received it. So it would be like not going to your retainer. So all your stuff was selling. So for people that are in the habit of flipping things on the market, you were investing a sum of money into an item, you were listing it for more money, and then it was selling, but you weren't getting back your initial investment or your profit. And so people were really upset. Is that money gone forever? And the answer ended up being no. So hopefully that's the same thing here. Until the current issue is resolved and the data is restored, we will be halting the lottery for all plots of land. We apologize for the disruption and will provide further information about the schedule as soon as possible. The process of resolving the issue and restoring lottery data is proceeding as follows. The root cause of the issue has been determined. We're currently running a test to reproduce said issue on development servers. To complete this testing and verify that we have correctly identified the cause will require at least one more business day. Step 1, they got to make it happen again.
Yeah.
Step 2, the process causing the issue will be adjusted to function as intended and correctly notify the housing server. We will then verify whether or not implementing these fixes resolves the overall issue. Step 3, they're going to have to verify this. After we are certain of the root cause of the issue, we must test whether the implemented fix indeed resolves it. We expect this process to take approximately one lottery, I guess. 3 to 5 business days. But ask in advance for your understanding in the event that it takes longer than expected to determine that with certainty that the issue is resolved.
Mm-hmm.
And in the final step, restoring the lottery data. The lottery data that exists on the server responsible for processing results will be used to overwrite the housing server so that the correct data is reflected. This will be done at the same time that fixes for the issues are implemented and will require a maintenance period for all worlds. You think it'll be 24 hours? Maintenance times.
Well, I honestly predict this to actually be a part of the 1.11 update right now. Like you look at the day and you look at 3 to 5. So lottery, I think essentially is going to kick back up and resume along with ultimate, because that's essentially what the next big patch is. And that essentially from a testing
and you have to take it down
and have to taking it down and, you know, like, etc. Like it's like, you don't want to, like, I don't see them sitting here and saying, hey, it's done on Friday. Yeah. Oh, and then we're also planning on the maintenance on Tuesday. So based off of the timing here, like I think this is all going to get rolled into the 1.11 patch, which makes sense from a testing, from a time. Like you don't want them to rush it. Like the worst case scenario is, hey, Ultimate's out and oh, housing's still broken. Or worst case scenario is, hey, Ultimate's here. Oh, the thing we were doing on housing broke Ultimate. And that's one of the things that as an engineer, it's like you ultimately, like it is. Sometimes, especially when you have games that are this scale and this large, like that's where I get frustrated from gamers and their viewpoint of like, oh, it's simple. Like, I wish it was. Like, I get the idea that, you know, oh, it's simple, like to go and just put a switch there. But like, you have to make sure that that code that was injected and it doesn't then randomly decide to go and impact something else. And it's like, that's why testing is critical. And that's where, like, back to that conversation I've seen online. People are like, oh, they're like getting lazy, or the Q&A. It's like you're talking.
What if it affected existing houses, right?
Exactly.
They're going in and they're modifying existing plots. What if it affected, how would people feel if it started messing with people who already have houses?
The best situation, and why I believe and defend 14 time and time again, it comes down to that, like, I don't see Square Enix make the same mistake twice. And that's actually really critical. Like another bug can happen, but it's not that they're sitting here and saying, hey, we fixed this. Oh, and now it's broken again. And now it's broken again. When a bug happens, when it's the same bug over and over again, that's where confidence gets lost. But Square Enix identifies the issues, they implement the fixes, and then, yes, more issues and stuff like that will happen in the future. That's the nature of these kind of games. That's why it's like the idea that like, oh, you know, this game's absolutely perfect. There are no bugs. Like when somebody told me that, I go, you're setting yourself up for a world of hurt, because like there are bugs. The thing is that there are not the same bugs over and over again, and that's actually a good thing. The fact that bugs happen is just a fact of it. Like there's no, like Yoshi-P saying, well, spare no expense. That does not immediately absolve the game of bugs and issues. It just means that, you know, we're going to make sure we get those addressed, and we're going to communicate those, and that communication is critical. And I think at the end of the day, like, yeah, everybody would prefer issues like this never happen, but Square Enix literally just showed how you handle an issue like that. You over communicate. You tell everybody all the details so they're not off in the corner speculating, oh, it's because, you know, like, oh, the reason I didn't get a house is because, you know, clearly I made that tweet about Square Enix that one day and then blah, blah. You know, like, you don't give people the space to sit here and breathe in and believe theory. Like, I've seen so many people speculating on what the core issue is, and my always concern is that when a kind of a theory ends up becoming the zeitgeist of what people believe, and then you have to work twice as hard to kind of correct that mindset. Oh, I heard from so and so that it was this, and it's like, that's actually not the case. There was, you know, so anyhow.
All right. So Yoshi-P says that he is deeply sorry to have disappointed the hopes of our player base in this major housing lottery bug. I assure you that the history of your housing lottery entries and the results has been preserved. We will do what we can to restore data for the lottery entrance without unnecessary rollbacks or other complications. It will take a little more time for us to correct the issue and restore the data to how it should be. But I thank you once again for your patience and understanding. Oh, housing is a hard topic. It is. I try to keep it light, but at the end of the day, it ends up being one of the deepest hurting pieces of content in this game. Time and time again, it continually hurts the most people the hardest. And there's not really an easy solution. All the easy solutions are things like, well, they should just make instanced housing, which is this total rollback into this total other development system. We don't know what Island Sanctuary is, but hopefully it'll scratch some portion of that itch, even though we have been told it is not housing.
Right.
But it may have certain overlaps with how it feels to you, but it's not housing. And so we have seen this time and time again just tear people up. And usually the simple answers are like, well, it should just work like this other game, which just isn't something they're going to be able to pivot to. Hindsight is obviously something where the devs, we've learned with them redoing the 2.0 dungeons, if they get the chance to implement hindsight, if they get the chance to go back and redo this like they redid Praetorium, they will.
Yeah.
We've seen it time and time again where they've said, this is too expensive. This is too expensive. You know what? Our devs stayed up overnight and did this.
Yeah.
This is too expensive. This is too expensive. You guys gave us overwhelming support with the new expansion. So we went back and fixed it. We have seen them time and time again take moments where they have enough resources and enough time, go back and fix things that they just were not setting the expectation were going to be fixed. And hopefully housing can one day fall in there. But once again, that's not the expectation they're setting. They are doing what they can. The nice thing is all the people who entered the lottery, however many people entered. So if you were like, oh my God, I was the only person that entered on my plot, I hope they saved my data because that's never going to happen again. Sounds like they've got yours, so I hope that's the case. What this does do is for everybody that is expecting a house in the second wave of houses, because there are going to be two groups of people that got these houses. One, the people that got these houses, this is their first ever house for their free company or personal. Amazing. Congratulations. Two, people who use this to relocate. And they are going to get their chance to relocate, and that is going to trigger all of those houses to be abandoned and move into the next lottery or the lottery after that, depending on how their relocation times. So if you wonder why there's plots that are unavailable for purchase, that's because they have to be available at the time that the auctions start. Otherwise, you have to wait through to the next 9-day cycle. But there is going to be a wave of houses in places like Lemsa and Ul'dah and all that have been abandoned to move over to Ishgard. And so for anybody that's looking at those that says, I've always wanted a large house, I want to bid on a large house, have my chance at a large house, but I'm never going to have 50 million. This is your undisclosed amount of time to go chase 50 million. I know there were people making 10, 20, and 30 million on patch day doing maps and stuff. So I don't know what the returns on those still are. But this is your chance to go at least scratch a lottery ticket in a system that hopefully when you scratch yours will work the first time. Yeah.
And so again, I do expect this to be rolling out next week. With these updates based off the timing that Yoshi-P has communicated in this latest letter. That doesn't mean that it will be next week, but that's just right now the earliest timing that I would estimate, along with timing for patch 6.11. Otherwise, like if 6.11 wasn't next week, like I could see them saying, okay, it's an important critical hotfix, but 3 to 5 days plus 1, that's 6 business days. That's they posted this yesterday, so. At its core, like you're looking at them really hitting this hard this week. Obviously, we'll see, the new Ultimate raid next week. I'm really excited for people to do that. So, I think essentially, hopefully, this is going to be the kind of that final, like, hey, it's housing and lottery, and yes, we would like something bigger and better, and maybe we'll get that one day. But nothing else. This should take away down the click farms and the botting. So essentially, kind of just making housing a little bit more fair, I guess, if RNG is fair.
There should be a 24-hour maintenance next week, so if they can slide in that, because they don't usually let the servers come up early if there is a race component involved.
And that's next week,
so
for sure.
Next week, having a race, and really only having a race, that's basically the entirety of the content that was slated for that patch. I don't expect the servers to come up early. I expect them to take the amount of time they need, which is probably a 24-hour maintenance. That would be my guess. I haven't seen anything posted on it. But
no, they haven't posted anything official,
typical.
But yeah, that's pretty typical.
Savage and Ultimates, typical.
Savage and Ultimates. So good luck to everybody with your housing. Good luck to everybody on Ultimates. And if you guys have any questions, sign up below. We're here to hopefully help get you guys the information that you need. Chris, why don't you take us out?
Guys, I'm going to go be live on Twitch if you guys want to come talk about this and you've made it this far. And then Brian and I are posting videos over to our respective channels. So I'm sure if this continues to develop, we will continue to cover it here, there, or all of the above. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a wonderful week. Hopefully this has not put a damper on any of yours. If so, I think the news post should make it a little bit brighter. But either way, we'll see you next time.